What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka Allfires. Now, at least right now, what Marvel Studios has confirmed for releases on Disney Plus, of all the shows we've gotten, Agatha, Echo, a slew of animated projects, I think it's fair to say that the most anticipated one is the live-action Daredevil reboot with 18 episodes set to air next year. Now, officially, they started filming today, Monday, March 6th, up in New York City, and at least if they hit their target date for principal photography, won't wrap until 9 months later on November 15th. But in the meantime, and as synchronicity would have it, because the universe is the way it is, we also got an enormous update about that show today, coming from an industry insider slash Twitter scoopster who's rather new to the scene but has a ton of details, including how Marvel Studios may look to release this 18-episode TV show, something completely different than what they've done before and a departure from what we've come to expect from Marvel TV shows. We're going to break down all the latest updates, what they're saying about the show, how it'll be released, and what character from the original Netflix series looks like they won't be coming back, at least according to this report. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews to the occasional industry insider report and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. The next one is to coincide with Guardians of the Galaxy in just a couple of months. Again, all you got to do, be a sub, leave a comment on this video if you want, stick around to the end of the video. We'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so for context, and as I mentioned moments ago in the prologue, today's update is actually coming from the Twitter scoopster slash industry insider The Watcher, who, rather new to the scene, hasn't had a chance for a lot of his scoops to come true or be debunked yet because they're for future projects. So while we wait to see exactly how accurate his reports and rumors have been when those projects are released, it's up to you how you want to take these details in the meantime. He starts by saying, quote, "Daredevil Born Again is still grounded and focused on serious themes, but I have heard it's going to be lighter in tone. There's a heavier focus on how Matt Murdock helps the underprivileged in the courtrooms, very episodic." What he's referring to is comparing this upcoming season to the original 3 seasons of the Netflix show and how dark and gritty it was. We had heard from Charlie Cox and a lot of the other people involved that it was important to them to retain as much of the intrinsic value of that original show, especially in the tone. But please remember, guys, Netflix is quite different than Disney Plus, especially for a character like Daredevil. So them making it slightly lighter in tone, I don't think has to detract in any way away from the darkness of the show. And I think by the end of the series, we're definitely going to have some comparable scenes. He goes on to say, quote, "I've heard that the episodes will focus on different cases and that Matt will use Daredevil to help his clients outside of the courtroom. This will spiral into a bigger story throughout the 18-episode run, becoming more serialized as it goes on." Again, just referencing that we're going to be getting a lot of Matt in the courtroom outside of him being Daredevil, and I sure hope that this time around, unlike She-Hulk, they hire writers who are competent and have experience writing courtroom scenes for TV. He also goes on to say something very interesting about how Disney and Marvel are going to choose to release this show. This is what he says, quote, "I've also heard that every 6 episodes is a smaller quote-unquote pod of sorts. The only thing I can think to compare it to is season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The 3 to 6 episode pods will not be released back to back or sequentially. They will take a break in between each pod for other Disney Plus originals to air." Now, that is a huge bombshell, and I'm not too sure how to feel about that because, like other shows that have done this recently, take for instance a Rick and Morty, whenever there's a pause in the middle of the season, it can really kill the momentum of the show, especially if they decide to go ahead and leave episode 6 and then eventually episode 12 on major cliffhangers. Yeah, that'll make you want to come back and see more, but when you're in the momentum of a show week to week waiting on the next episode, some of that hype and excitement can die, especially if the break in between the 2 seasons, or should I say these pods, for other Disney Plus originals to air in between. You would assume, at least in some cases, those are episodic shows as well, like say for instance the Star Wars series like Mandalorian or Ahsoka Tano, and if they're going to do that, where they break the show up, it's basically 3 small seasons of Daredevil over 1 year. This has me ultimately concerned because pacing has been my #1 gripe for Disney Plus shows, where they'll have a 9-episode or 6-episode season, but at least 2 of those they feel like they're spinning their wheels and using a bunch of dialogue dumps just to kind of fill up time in the episode. and then end up speeding through the important episodes when they could have spent much more time during, say, some of the previous ones setting up the finale. And I'm afraid that that pacing can't get any better if they go ahead and break the episode up. Now, maybe I'm just being sensitive, maybe it won't be that bad, and quite honestly, when you think about Disney Plus putting out 18 episodes at once, which is essentially 3 or 4 months of a TV show, that doesn't seem to make sense for the way their programming works. But also, I have to bring up one other thing, considering that this Daredevil TV show is taking part of the most critical part of the multiverse saga, where the multiverse, and at least at some point next year, will be breaking. And we've heard that Deadpool is basically that line in the sand, that by the time that we hit Deadpool, the multiverse will be so fractured at that point and going forward that every sort of franchise will have to take place through the prism of that fractured multiverse. That just makes it even more complicated to have to put this show on a timeline, a Marvel timeline that they started off with absolute sacred reverence, and it seems like as of late have allowed to get majorly sloppy, and especially when it comes to these TV shows. So this huge break in between the separate pods of 6 shows each definitely has me worried, but not enough for me to sort of have any gloom and doom for the series. I have a lot of faith, mostly because they've retained Charlie Cox as Daredevil, mostly because of the people who are involved with that show and their experience already. I think that there's a lot good going forward that you can take from that instead of starting a show from scratch. The last detail that was thrown in here by the Watcher, though, for the record, guys, is that Elektra Nachos will not be returning as far as he has heard, and I don't think there's a reason to do the Electric Saga over or bring her back. I think she had her run on the TV show. There are plenty of other crossovers and characters, especially with what's going on with Kingpin, and then eventual team up with Spider-Man. Fingers crossed. Whether or not that's Spider-Man 4, we'll have to wait and see, but there have been a lot of you who have wondered whether or not Peter Parker could make a cameo on the show, and I think ultimately, even though Sony is running out Spider-Man Noir and Silk as Spider-Man TV shows on Amazon, putting Spider-Man franchises on TV, I think Peter Parker, Tom Holland is just an absolute no-go for a Disney Plus TV show. I think it's too complicated with Sony. I think it's too expensive, and even though a lot of you have pointed out that Peter Parker showing up on the show would make the most sense crossing over against Kingpin, but of course Peter Parker being his introduction point for Matt Murdock in the MCU. Remember that spell that they cast at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home would have erased Peter Parker from everybody's memory, including Matt Murdock, which means ultimately, even if there is a loophole there, even if Zendaya is going to remember, even if there are other characters who are off-world and in other dimensions that do remember Spider-Man, Matt Murdock is surely not one of them, and I really think it just comes down to the money, the red tape, and ultimately the watering down of Tom Holland's Peter Parker. I just don't see him cameoing. But that being said, who else would you guys like to see? I think She-Hulk at this point is almost assured because of their crossover during her series, but there are a ton of other awesome characters that could show up during the show either as introduction or cameos from characters we've already seen in the MCU like Shang-Chi. I would be all for it. You guys let me know down below who you want to see cameo on the show, how you feel about the 6 episodes being released in 3 different pods next year. Quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. All right, we are still giving away a PlayStation 5. The next milestone is Guardians of the Galaxy in just a couple of months. If you want to be entered to win, all the same rules will always apply for giveaways at the channel. All you got to do, hit the subscribe button, then leave a comment down below, and because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on, and as always, if you like today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at I'mFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name Allfires. And while I'd sincerely appreciate you checking my music out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.